So we're in a position of he said, she said, or she said, he said. I'm talking about, well, not a he and a she, but a he and a he, Donald Trump and Volodymyr Zelensky. It looks like there's a bit of a disconnect on the story that the Americans at the NATO summit in Ankara, through President Trump, promised Ukraine a license to produce those very in-demand Patriot missile systems. If that were to happen, Ukraine would become only the third country, outside the US of course, to have the license to produce them after Germany and Japan. But now it seems after a cabinet meeting at Camp David, Mr. Trump is walking back his statement saying that, well, we have not agreed to that. It's a hard thing to give away that kind of technology. And that was a big departure from him telling Mr. Zelensky in Ankara, you should make it yourself, this will help you. And I hate to take credit for it, but I did predict this would happen because earlier on the air, I can't remember if it was on BBC or CNN, I said that sure, some kind of agreements are made with Mr. Trump, but you never know whether he'll remember them, whether he'll deliver on them, whether a phone call will happen and he'll change his mind. We all know by now, especially as Canadians, that Mr. Trump has difficulty even remembering what agreements he's made, honoring them if he does remember them, and following through. I mean, look at how he's treated Canada, traditionally America's best friend, with big tariffs threatening to take it over. So a warning to Mr. Zelensky, be careful who you make friends with, because if Mr. Trump treats Canada like that, how can he be expected to honor any security agreements with Ukraine? So there you have it. And, you know, it doesn't look like Mr. Zelensky achieved that much from his visit to Washington. It was a back-to-back visit, first to the UK, which he met with Andy Burnham, the new Prime Minister, who pledged continued UK support for Ukraine. And actually, this was a good thing, promised intellectual property information to Ukraine to be able to, I guess the word is to increase the effectiveness of its strikes into Russia. Yeah, so it doesn't look like much came out of the visit, and he did go to Washington with a political chaos here in Ukraine, huge protests yesterday in Kyiv, and I've seen protests throughout the week here in Odesa as well. And of course that has to do with Mr. Zelensky sacking his very popular Defense Minister Mikhailo Fedorov, the guy who's the tech guru and who really put Ukraine in a stronger position when it comes to things like reducing the amount of drones and missiles that strike Ukraine, but also increasing the effectiveness of Ukrainian strikes on Russia, also increasing the morale of frontline troops. Mr. Zelensky has reportedly offered Mr. Fedorov other positions, but not at the cabinet table, which is a big deal. So I don't know how long this will carry on for, but we have to remember a lot of the folks out there are young and are part of the base that elected Mr. Zelensky to office. But he can probably outweigh them because he doesn't have to have an election during martial law. And so we'll see what happens with that. But it did not do anything for Ukraine's image, certainly overseas, or for Mr. Zelensky, because it does look like he did cave to vested interests, especially those who earn a lot of money from huge procurement contracts. Now, going back to Ukraine, terrible strikes overnight in Kyiv, 220 incoming drones and missiles, and of that, only 156 were brought down. According to WhatsApp chats I've had with people in Kyiv, they say it seems like none of the missiles were intercepted. It was a very violent evening. And I'm also reminded that it's becoming very tough on people, and people are getting increasingly worried about what's going to happen as the weather changes and the winter comes, whether they should stay, whether they should leave. Now, given what has happened or continues to happen with what's supposed to be Kyiv's closest ally, the United States, with a very unpredictable Donald Trump is if we look at what's happening in the kind of wider picture, you have as belligerents in this war, aside from Russia, you also have Iran and you have North Korea, and in the background you have China helping Russia, more so on the high-tech side of things. And I think that one would be at least a little bit interested in trying to connect these dots, because the other thing that's happening, of course, is this war is widening. There's been Ukrainian strikes in the Caspian Sea on an Iranian vessel allegedly carrying weapons or other kit to Russia, but it's become a very important corridor for those two countries, Russia and Iran. North Korea is reported to be preparing to send as many as 30,000 soldiers to Russia. This is from 13,000 from earlier in the war, and at that time they were only limited to Russian territory. Now it's believed that they're going to be deployed to Russian-occupied territory in Ukraine. In effect, that could be described as a North Korean invasion of Ukraine's sovereign territory. And of course, we all know how involved Iran is in this war from day one, especially supplying Russia with drones. So where do all these lines connect through? Anyone? Beijing. That's right. Beijing is a very strong ally to Iran. It's the biggest purchaser of their oil. North Korea is basically a client state. And of course, Russia's Putin and Xi Jinping of China have a very close relationship, but let's not fool ourselves. Xi Jinping is the senior partner in this one. And, the Chinese, they have time on their hands. They play the long game, and they are certainly having a look at future possibilities when it comes to the Russian Far East, especially with Russian forces amassed heavily along the Ukrainian front line. And at the end of the day, I think it's Xi Jinping who has all of these leaders on speed dial, can pretty much tell them what to do or what not to do. But I do think at the end of the day, if perhaps Mr. Zelensky upped his diplomatic engagement, if you will, with Xi Jinping with China, we all know what China wants and needs. They want a lot of energy. They want a lot of rare earth minerals. They want construction contracts, not necessarily ones that are not fair to wherever they're building. But if you take all of that into consideration and perhaps present them with some sort of package, because they were previous here quite engaged with Ukraine, maybe something would happen. Maybe the talks at least would be restarted between Russia and Ukraine, with China playing a role. Don't forget that China has upped its diplomatic engagement with Europe, appointed a special envoy to the continent. I just think it's an option that hasn't been fully explored, but it should be. So there you have it for today, my big idea, which you'll hear me floating out a little bit more as the week goes on air. And let's see what kind of response we get to that. I'd love to hear your comments as well.